I'm really happy to have Senator Josh Hawley on the podcast. Senator Hawley has been a rising star in the Republican Party. He's had a decorated career, Stanford, Yale Law School, clerking for the Chief Justice, state attorney, and now senator from Missouri. His new book, The Tyranny of Big Tech, you might remember one of the mainstream publishing houses tried to suppress the book. It's out from Regnery. Senator Hawley, thanks for coming on the program. I really appreciate it. Let's talk about big tech. Is your argument that this is the new public square? This is the place where people talk and argue so that the democratic process requires a free, open space? What is the nature of the problem that you're tackling?
I think the nature of the problem is monopoly. Here we have these companies, the tech companies, and I'm thinking of the dominant tech platforms. So Apple and Amazon and Facebook and Twitter and Google, of course. These dominant platforms have become monopolies that control the tech space, they control much of our economy, and they control speech. To your point, Dinesh, they control huge amounts of speech, news, information, and even journalism. And my view is, like we've done before in American history, we've got to break up these monopolies. They've gotten to the point they are, the size they are, with the help of the federal government. I mean, no, this isn't natural, quote unquote. This isn't the market just working on its own. They've gotten special deals from government that have helped them become huge, big and monopolistic. Now they're suppressing competition, even as they're suppressing speech, and we need to break them up.
Now, we've had, you could say, three communications revolutions in the country's history. There was the first one in the 19th century with the telegraph, for example, and the railroads. Then you had the early 20th century with the telephone and the car and the airplane. And if we're now living through the third communications revolution, are we seeing something similar to what, say, Teddy Roosevelt encountered a century ago when he saw these massive cartels? And even though he was a Republican, he said, hey, listen, fighting these cartels is actually supporting capitalism, because capitalism doesn't just mean laissez-faire, leave them alone. Capitalism means ensuring competition, ensuring fair play, ensuring that people have a right to compete in the marketplace.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You know, Theodore Roosevelt understood that being pro-capitalism, being pro-worker, being pro-free market meant that you were anti-monopoly, because monopoly is the enemy of competition. Monopoly is also the enemy of liberty. And that's something that Republicans a century ago understood too. You know, Republicans really invented trust busting as a policy. I mean, we were the party of trust busters a century ago, and not because we were against the free market and against capitalism, but because we were for it. And I think we've got to take the same position today. I mean, these companies are a threat to the free market. They are trying to squelch competition. They're trying to prevent new businesses from getting into the market, new market entrants. They're throttling down innovation. I think they're actually contributing to an innovation slowdown because of their monopoly status. And of course, there's their control over speech. So the bottom line is not just competition to the free market, but liberty and monopoly don't go together. And Theodore Roosevelt and the Republicans a century ago understood that. Our framers understood that. And that's something that we need to recapture today.
So clearly you don't accept this. There is a kind of libertarian camp that holds, hey, these are private companies, leave them alone. You Republicans are supposed to be for privatization and letting private companies function. But what you're saying, I think, and you make this point in the book, that, and I find this really very interesting, you've got Democrats in Congress cheering on and demanding that these digital censors censor more. You've got reporters who literally are reporting people to Google, reporting people to Twitter, censor this guy, shut down this guy's account. So it appears like there's an elite coordinated assault. And in some ways, to me, the distinction between government and private is less important because all these dudes are working in concert.
No, they really are working in concert, and you're right about what the Democrats want in Congress. If you listen to them, what they say is the tech companies ought to be censoring more. They've really fallen in love, the Democrats have, with the tech companies' monopoly power, and they want to use that power to censor conservative speech, to shut down opposition, to do what the government couldn't do in our country thanks to the First Amendment, but they want to get around that by using these tech companies. I would just say that, once again, free markets only function if there's competition. And that's why believers in the free market have always said there's a place to make sure that we don't have monopolies that cut off competition, that threaten individual liberty, that threaten also the liberty of self-government, which is ultimately what we're trying to defend here. We're trying to defend our democratic republic And for that to be true, for our democratic republic to be healthy and to survive, the American people have to be in control of their lives, their government, and their information, not these monopoly companies. And that's why I think we need to act.
I mean, just yesterday, Hillary Clinton released a statement, and I don't know if you saw this, but in effect, she said, if we can't agree on A, facts, B, evidence, and C, truth, then we can't really have democracy. And I was literally chuckling as I read this because I thought to myself, throughout American history, I mean, Jefferson and Hamilton didn't agree. Lincoln and Douglas didn't agree. You know, Reagan and Mondale didn't agree. So we've had debates, and very often the debates are about facts. Is this a fact, and what is its significance? So if you demand in advance that there be some agreement on not only facts, but evidence and truth, and then you call upon these digital platforms to, quote, enforce it, you're basically subverting the argument that is at the heart of the democratic process itself, aren't you?
That's right. And what democracy can't exist without is free speech. What it can't exist without is debate, free and open debate. You know, our framers were so focused on deliberation. They wanted the people to be in control of the government. They wanted the people to make decisions. And how would they do that? Well, we would deliberate together, and then we would ultimately come to a decision. And our whole constitutional structure is to try to promote this control by the people and to try to promote deliberation by the people to reach these decisions. You can't do any of that if you can't have free and open debate. And I think one of the reasons today's woke left is so scary, and their effort to use the monopoly power of these corporations is so scary, is because they want to shut down debate. They want to shut down free speech. They don't believe in that anymore. There really is an authoritarian element to the modern left and to the woke left that you're seeing, and you see it in these companies. And this is, again, why conservatives have got to take a stand on the Constitution, the First Amendment, and say, this is what we believe in.
When we come back, I want to probe with Senator Hawley the simple question that when the ruling party is cheering censorship, what can we do to actually fight back against the digital censors? We'll be right back.